Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. So Alhamdulillah, this is our fourth session on the subject of the purification of the soul. And we have been looking at the reality of the intention. Yeah. The haqiqa an-niyya wa fadliha. So, very important subject. Why? Because the niyya of a person, we've been talking about this, has a direct impact on the outcome of his action. Meaning, Allah deals with you based on your intentions. So, if you want dunya, fine, go for it. You will get what Allah wills of it for you, but there will be nothing for you in al-akhirah. But if your niyya, is only Him and only Him, He will give you dunya as well as His Jannah in al-akhirah. So your niyya is key to your outcome. And the hadith that we have been looking at is this one here. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Actions are only by intention. And every man shall only have what he intended. And then the Prophet ﷺ gives some examples. So he whose hijrah was for Allah and His Messenger, his hijrah was for Allah and His Messenger. And he whose hijrah was to achieve some worldly benefit or to take some woman in marriage, his hijrah was for that, for which he made hijrah. So the recompense, the outcome of any action, it depends on the intention. Because we have been given the free will to make this choice. So we learn the fundamental principle from this hadith, which is that the action should be intended only for Allah, the worship of Allah alone. Now, on the other hand, if the intention is other than that, for example, if the intention is to show off, yeah, because you can have many different intentions, yeah, apart from ikhlas. If the intention is to show off, subhanallah, then the same act of worship will become into an act of disobedience. Think about that. An act of worship, it turns into an act of disobedience because of the intention. That is why it's so important to study the subject, to talk about it, and to reflect over it. Think about that, subhanallah. The Sharia ruling changes, subhanallah. So the act of worship has now become an act of disobedience. Imagine, you're fasting, you're praying, you're giving charity, you're looking after your parents. But what are you doing? You're earning sins because of your niyyah. This is how dangerous it is to have the wrong intention. Imam an-Nawawi said that the majority of scholars, including linguists, scholars of usul, and others, said that the wording of the hadith means that the deeds are strongly connected to intention. Yeah? The deeds, they're strongly connected to the niyyah, as it affirms what is mentioned that negates everything else. So this hadith must be understood as meaning that righteous deeds are counted only as righteous deeds if the intention is sound. Okay? So it might look like a righteous deed, but it's not going to be a righteous deed unless the intention is correct. It's as simple as that, subhanallah. It's either this or that. Either your intention is correct or your intention is not correct, subhanallah. And then he mentions a very interesting point, because I'm sure we've heard about, making the niyyah for fasting, making the niyyah for praying, making the niyyah. We hear this all the time from the fiqh perspective, right? So he says that this indicates that purification in terms of tahara, right? I'm talking about the fiqh ruling, yeah? He's talking about that over here, which includes wudu and ghusl and tayammum. He says it's not valid unless it's preceded by the niyyah. You have to have the niyyah before you start it. And then he says the same applies to prayer, zakah, fasting, hajj, itikaf, and all acts of worship. This is the importance of niyyah. Okay. So not only you have to make sure you have the correct niyyah, you also have to make sure that you have a niyyah. Yeah, you are being mindful. Yeah, so a certain amount of presence of mind is required when beginning an act of worship. Yeah. Now, I don't want to go into fiqh issues, right? Because that's not the goal of this class. But just to clarify this very important point that Imam Nawawi makes, I'll give you one example. Simple example of ghusl. Yeah. So, for example, what happens is that one day you wake up in the morning and you go take a shower. Yeah. And what's your intention? Why are you going to take a shower? Oh, I just want to take a shower. So your niyyah is, I'm just taking a shower. Yeah. So your niyyah is not ghusl in terms of, ghusl in order to remove major impurity. Yeah. Oh, I just want to take a shower. So you go take a shower. That was your niyyah. Now, if this was your niyyah, this shower is not going to remove the major impurity of janaba, even though you've covered yourself with water. Technically, you've had a ghusl, but this shower will not remove the major impurity of janaba because you didn't have the intention. You just woke up and said, oh, I'm going to go take a shower. So you have to have it in your mind. You're not saying anything, yeah? Because niyyah is not something you say. Niyyah is in your heart. It's something you're thinking. So if you're only thinking when you wake up, I'm going to take a shower, this is not the niyyah for, I need to take a shower in order to remove janaba. So, but if you wake up and say, oh, I'm in a state of janaba, you remember this, yeah? I'm in a state of janaba. I need to go take a shower. So this is now your niyyah, to take a shower, yeah? To remove the janaba, and then that will remove the major impurity. But if you just go and take a shower and then later on you realize, oh, I was in a state of janaba. Oh, but I had a shower, so it's okay. No, it's not okay. You're going to have to go back and repeat the shower. Okay? So subhanallah, this is just a small example to highlight the importance of having a niyyah. Okay, so this is about acts of worship that are not accepted due to the lack of a correct niyyah. And we also spoke about, subhanallah, you can possibly earn a sin while doing an act of worship due to a messed up niyyah. Yeah. And all of this is based upon innamal a'malu binniyat. Yeah. So your niyyah can change, subhanallah, an act of worship into a sin for you, subhanallah, into an act of disobedience because your niyyah is messed up. Okay. Also, subhanallah, your niyyah can change an act of disobedience. Yeah. So now, may Allah protect us, you're actually doing something wrong. Yeah. Not an act of worship, you're doing something wrong. But it can raise it from the level of a sin to a level of shirk because of your niyyah. Doing something wrong can change from a haram thing into an act of to the level of shirk because of your niyyah. For example, okay, we'll take the example of music. You can have this kind of an attitude, this kind of an intention. You go and you listen to music and you say, and your niyyah is, oh, I just can't help it. I have this weakness. I have this bad habit. I have this addiction. It's really bad. It's my weakness. I shouldn't be doing it. It's haram, but I can't stop it. I'm going to go do it. Yeah. So your niyyah is weakness. I can't stop myself. I'm going to go do it. Yeah. So now what's happening is that if you have this intention, you are affirming the fact that it's haram, but you're also saying, I'm doing it out of weakness. I can't stop myself. I'm going to go do it. You will sin because it's a sin, but it will be the sin of listening to music. Yeah. But because inshallah, you have this attitude, what will you do? As soon as you control yourself and you stop because you know it's haram, what are you going to do? Inshallah, you will make sincere tawbah. Yeah. And you'll make the sincere intention, I'm not going to do it again. Yeah. Now, if you are like this, inshallah, Allah will forgive your sin. Yeah. There's hope of forgiveness because you're based on the sincerity of your tawbah. Yeah. Again. But if you say, what's wrong with listening to music? And I'm talking about the type of music which is haram. Yeah, I'm not talking about the daf and not going into that fiqh issue. The music which is widespread these days, which is clearly haram. But if you say, there's nothing wrong with listening to music. Who said it's haram? It's absolutely fine. It helps me relax. It's a very good thing. I'm going to go listen to music. Now, what you've done over here is not only have you done the haram action of listening to music, you've raised your sin to the level of shirk. How? because of your niyyah. You have turned the haram into halal. And that's an act of shirk. I'm not going to go into the evidence of this from the Quran and the Sunnah, but it is an issue which there's absolutely no ikhtilaf about. Nobody has the right to make the halal haram and the haram halal except Allah. And if anybody does that, that is an act of shirk, subhanallah. Very, very serious. Okay? So your niyyah can make the difference between the heaven and the earth, isn't it? Okay, so now we're going to go back to the book. The next point he talks about is now permissible action. So what have we spoken about now? We've spoken about acts of obedience, yeah, like fasting and praying and all these things. They can turn from an act of worship into an act of disobedience because of your niyyah. Then we spoke about how an act of disobedience can go from the level of a sin to the level of shirk because of your niyyah. Yeah, and we spoke about the lack of a correct niyyah, and you've gone and done an act of worship, but you didn't have the correct niyyah. It's zero. That act of worship is not accepted. And now we're going to, the author, he talks about permissible actions. Yeah. So we're not talking about the things which are obligatory. We're not talking about the haram things. We're talking about the permissible deeds. He says, as for permissible deeds, they all involve intentions, which can potentially turn them into excellent acts, which bring a man near to Allah and confer on him the gift of qurba, closeness to Allah. Meaning, your permissible actions that you do every day, meaning you're sleeping, you're eating, you're going for a walk, all actions that are permissible, that are mubah, they can potentially become great acts of worship, and they can become the means of attaining closeness to Allah due to the level of your ikhlas, your niyyah. Some of the Salaf said, many saghir, yani small actions, are made azim, great, by the niyyah behind them. And many great azim actions, on the other hand, are made small because the intentions behind them are lacking. For example, you gave 10,000 pounds in charity. Okay, but what was your niyyah? Okay, maybe your niyyah was not to impress people. And as I mentioned, there's a whole list of other reasons other than the sake of Allah why you could potentially do something in your life. Okay, showing off is not one problem. There are many, many other problems we can have in our niyyah. Okay, so maybe you're not interested in impressing people. Yeah, but you give money, huge amount of money, maybe to make yourself feel good, to satisfy your nafs, for the feeling of self-satisfaction. I've done something good. I've done something good for the community. Oh, I'm not that bad. SubhanAllah. What's the reward if you give 10,000 pounds with this kind of a niyyah? Zero. SubhanAllah. And the scholars, SubhanAllah, they actually call this irada an-nafs. This is the impurity of the niyyah, which is actually called irada an-nafs. Meaning your irada, your intention is following the desires of the self, of the nafs. It makes you feel good. So many people say, I do this because it makes me feel good. Wrong intention. You have to do it for the sake of Allah alone. And the fruit of that is it will make you feel good. But your niyyah cannot be to make myself feel good. See the difference? SubhanAllah. So following the desire of the self is an impurity in the intention. Wanting to do the deed for your own self is the greatest impurity. SubhanAllah. So you think you don't have a problem of showing off? You might have this problem. SubhanAllah. And there are many, I mean, there's a whole list over here. They're like, SubhanAllah. It's not in the book. I'm referring to another resource. The scholar gives 10 possible other impurities into your intention, but we don't have time to go into that. But for me personally, I thought, I see this as the biggest problems well, I'm not going to demean any of the other impurities, but I'm just saying, subhanAllah, you need to study this subject. And you know what? One of our Salaf, his name was Imam Yahya ibn Kathir, not Imam ibn Kathir, the Mufassirin. Okay, this scholar, he was a scholar from Andalus. Yes, he said there should be scholars who should just be teaching people about Niyyah. Yeah, there should be scholars who should just be teaching people about Niyyah. Now, inshallah, I think after today, you will have some idea why our old scholars used to give so much importance to Niyyah. Yeah. So you giving 10,000 pounds to make yourself feel good, reward zero. On the other hand, you know, if somebody comes to you and says, oh, you know, I'm in desperate need, I just need 10 pounds, I just need some money, and you know, all asks you for just 10 pounds, and it's 10 pounds is actually all that you have on you at that moment in time, right? You don't have more than that. So all you have in your wallet is 10 pounds, but somebody comes to you and asks you for that amount of money, you just take it out and you just give it. But your intention is Allah. Why? Because you are mindful of the decree of Allah. And when someone comes and asks you for help, you don't see that person. You see Allah. You see Allah opening the door of charity for you. You don't think, you just take it out and you give. You don't say, oh, I don't know what this person's intention is. Okay. You don't go into that. If you see, you know, more or less genuine case, yeah, I mean, you know the person, for example, right? And you're like, this person, and it's not asking for a huge amount of money and saying, I'm desperate, please help me. You just take it out and give it, peace be Allah, right? You give it out for the sake of Allah, only 10 pounds. But because that's all you had on, no, not because of it was all you had on you, it's not the amount. It's your niyyah, okay? Because you only gave it for the sake of Allah, this will be heavy on the scale for you because of the ikhlas, okay? So what do we learn from this very important principle? The quality of your action depends on your level of awareness of yourself, yeah? And you will not be able to develop this self-awareness as long as you're concerned with, what did this auntie say? What did that person do? Why did she say this? Did you see what she was wearing? You know, as long as you've got all these dunya issues in your head, right? All these issues which are not relevant to your existence on this planet, yeah, you're not going to be able to achieve this focus that you need in your life. So what do we need to do? We need to start clearing our minds from what? Distractions. So we can achieve some level of focus, yeah? Some level of self-awareness. So we are mindful of what we are doing. We are mindful of what we are doing, and we are mindful of the decree of Allah, okay? Bi-idnillah. And you can't do any of this, okay? Can't do any of this without Allah granting you success. But these are concepts that I'm sharing with you, inshallah, for you to think about and for you to say, I want to do this. Yeah, I want to do this. So first you make that niyyah and then you ask Allah to help you, because you won't be able to do it unless Allah helps you. Okay. So inshallah, you know, you're looking at this innamal a'malu binniyat. I'm going to share another hadith with you. Part of the perfection of one's Islam is leaving that which does not concern him. Hassan hadith, okay, by Imam al-Tirmidhi. Now, some of you might have heard of this hadith before. Part of the perfection of one's Islam is leaving that which does not concern him. Now, after everything I've mentioned, do you see this hadith with a different light? If I want to focus on my path to Allah, do I have time to think about what other people are up to? Right? Can I afford to clutter my mind with things which are going to be possibly obstacles in my path to Allah? You would work to clear those obstacles, right? Every time something happens, an issue turns up, you'll think, okay, is this even my business? Oh, it's none of my business. Okay, forget about it. This is none of my business. I can't help anyone over here. This is none of my business. I mean, this should be like a filter for us. Is this my business or not? And if you find this is not my business, stay away from it. Subhanallah. So your focus, which is what you need in order to purify your intention, your faith, your iman, according to this hadith, is influenced by external elements. So a level of disconnection to dunya is necessary in order to purify your intentions from all impurities. And so we ask Allah to grant us the tawfiq. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Okay, subhanallah. We've gone 24 minutes and we haven't started on the topic on the excellence of intention. Inshallah, excellence of knowledge. I'll just share one or two more points, and inshallah, the excellence of knowledge we'll do tomorrow, inshallah. So then the Imam mentions in this chapter the excellence of intention. And then he mentions a quotation of Umar bin Khattab, who said, may Allah be pleased with him, the best acts are doing what Allah has commanded, staying away from what Allah has forbidden, and having sincere intentions towards whatever Allah has required of us. Yeah? Whatever Allah has required of us, having the sincere intentions. Yeah? Mubah things, if you don't have intentions, it's okay, because that's permissible for you to do. But you can change it into a great act of worship. Yeah? But as far as doing what Allah has commanded you to do, and as far as staying away from the prohibitions, here you need to have sincere intentions. And Yahya ibn Kathir, who I already mentioned, who said that, there should be people who should be teaching people about just this topic. He also said, learn about intentions, because their importance is greater than the importance of actions. Imagine. And that is because innamal a'malu binniyat. And subhanallah, now, inshallah, we would understand the statement of Imam Shafi, which I shared maybe yesterday. He said, this hadith is a third of all knowledge. This hadith is a third of all knowledge. But how can we possibly understand the nature of intention and ikhlas, to have the correct intention without knowledge? And so that is why the next topic within this chapter is the excellence of knowledge and teaching it. Okay, which inshallah bi'idhnillah we will do tomorrow. Okay, my dear sisters, so I'm going to stop the recording now, and if anybody has any comments or any questions, please feel free to ask.